There's lots of reasons why getting comfortable with all of the scary, confusing tax stuff will benefit you when you're self-employed. The most obvious being you legally have to pay taxes. So if you're not paying your quarterly estimated taxes, come April, you're going to be writing a fat check that will probably include late payment penalties. But more than that, once you understand the basics, you can develop processes that let you take care of business quickly and confidently. When you understand your tax obligations, you can keep those in mind when you're planning for your business and setting prices for your products and services. In this video, we're going to go through the basics in 6 parts so that you can set up a system to pay your quarterly estimated taxes with confidence. And before we dive in, I want to point out that I've created a PDF guide that goes along with this video that you can download for free. It's got links and other helpful details that would be super handy to have saved on your desktop, so I highly recommend downloading that whenever you're done watching this video. That resource will be linked in the description box below. Part 1. What the are quarterly estimated tax payments? At the federal level, quarterly estimated tax payments are made up of 2 things. 1, a self-employment tax comprising both the employer and employee portions of Social Security and Medicare. In 2022, this is 15.3% of your net income. And what your net income is your gross income or your total income minus any business expenses. Federal income tax gets a bit confusing because certain amounts are taxed at different rates depending on your tax bracket or depending on how much you make per year. We'll come back to this in section 4. When you're self-employed, you also have to pay quarterly estimated tax to your state's Department of Revenue. State tax rates are lower than federal, ranging from 3 to 13.3%. Part 2, mark your calendars. Federal quarterly estimated tax payments are due 4 times throughout the year. These are the dates for 2022, but year to year they always fall mid-April, mid-June, mid-September, and mid-January of the following year. Most states and municipalities' due dates are also around the 15th of each of those months, but more information on where to find those exact dates will follow. At the beginning of the calendar year, I like to mark my calendar on the day each of these are due, as well as a week or so beforehand to make sure I have my calculations and payments ready on time. Again, the more that you can turn this into a repeatable system that you do each quarter, the easier it's going to get each time you do it. Part 3, find and save the documents you'll need. In order to pay your quarterly estimated taxes, there are a few documents that you're going to need. I'd recommend finding these and saving them to a folder on your computer for easy access each quarter. The federal form is called Form 1040-ES, and there's a link to it in the PDF guide linked below. You can find your state form by Googling 40ES and then your state. Make sure you're clicking on a result from your state's Department of Revenue website. It'll always be a .gov URL. Many cities and municipalities will send their residents local quarterly tax forms, but a quick Google search will tell you what you need to do in your area. Once you gather all these documents, save them in a folder labeled Taxes and keep it on your computer so you can return to it throughout the year. Part 4, calculate how much you owe. I highly recommend you read through the federal and state worksheets to figure out exactly how to do the calculations for how much you owe. However, the point of this video is to make it easier for you guys. So since I've been paying my quarterly estimated taxes for several years and I have an accountant who will make sure that I'm square at tax time, I have a simpler way of calculating these quarterly estimated tax payments, and I'm going to share that with you in this section. First, I take a look at my monthly revenue and expense spreadsheets for my business and add up the total revenue for the quarter. Then the total expenses for the quarter. I subtract the expenses from the revenue to find my net income. Now let's start with federal. I multiply that number by 15.3% to calculate my federal self-employment tax. This is how much I owe for the quarter in self-employment tax. Quarterly income tax is a bit trickier to calculate, like I said, because it's dependent on your tax bracket. And your tax bracket is dependent on your yearly income. So here's how I do that. First, I make my best guess of what I'm gonna make in the calendar year. I usually start with what I made the prior year and then adjust from there. For example, let's say I'm predicting to have $50,000 in taxable income after the standard or itemized deductions. Then I determine my tax bracket based on that amount. With the taxable income amount of $50,000, I would fall into the third tax bracket. This means I would pay $4,807.50 plus 22% of whatever amount is over $41,775. That amount is $8,225. So I take that times 0.22 or 22% and add that to $4,807.50. Based on this, I would owe $6,617 for the year. Then I divide that by 4 for the amount owed each quarter. So at the end of quarters 1, 2, and 3, I'll add that number to the 15.3% of my net income for the quarter, and that's what I'll pay to the IRS. It's all paid on that same 1040 ES form. If I'm clearly on a path to make a lot more or a lot less than I predicted, then I can use that fourth quarter to make up for the difference in the first, second, and third quarter and just adjust my quarterly tax payment appropriately. Now let's move on to the state and local calculations. Like I said, different states and municipalities handle tax rates differently. Some rates are fixed and others are graduated, meaning that as taxable income increases, it's taxed at a higher rate. And some states and municipalities don't require you to pay income taxes at all. I included a link in the PDF below where you can learn more about your state's income tax rates. To find out whether your city or municipality collects income tax, just Google local income tax and then your city or municipality. To calculate your quarterly estimated state or local tax payments, start again with your net income for the quarter. For example, maybe I made $12,000 in revenue for the quarter and spent $2,000 in business expenses, then my net income is $10,000. I'll multiply this number by my state and or municipality's tax rate and then have my payment amounts. For example, the tax rate in Colorado is 4.55%, so I'll multiply $10,000 by 0.0455 to get $455. Part 5, ways to pay. Follow the instructions on the respective worksheets to figure out how to submit payments. On the form 1040, these instructions begin at the bottom of page 3. In my experience, paying your quarterly estimated taxes online is quicker and simpler. However, there is a small fee associated with it. You can also mail in a check along with your filled out form to the IRS. Depending on where you live, you'll be mailing this to a different office, so make sure to look at page 5 to figure out what the correct mailing address is for you. Every state is different based on how you can submit these payments, but a great place to start is always your state's Department of Revenue website. To find this site, just Google Department of Revenue and your state. Part 6, document your payments. Once you've submitted your payments each quarter, make sure that you document proof of payment. If you paid online, download or screenshot your receipt. If you sent a check, keep a copy of the form that you filled out saved as a PDF in that taxes folder on your computer. Why is this important? Well, when tax time comes around each year, you'll need to send your accountant proof of each of your quarterly estimated tax payments. You may also use a service like TurboTax or something similar to do this yourself, and services like that will ask you to input this information as well. When I send things over to my accountant, I like to send him a written summary. Here is generally what I include: my total income for the year with a monthly revenue spreadsheet attached, my total expenses for the year with a monthly expense spreadsheet attached. Along with my monthly expense total, I also outline yearly expenses for my home office so that those can be deducted. This usually results in a nice tax refund. Woo! My federal and state and local, if applicable, quarterly estimated tax payments, the amounts and dates paid with receipts attached if possible. If you choose to itemize versus taking that default 50% deduction, then make sure you keep evidence of all of those itemized deductions. Itemized deductions are in addition to deductions for things like taxes paid and standard IRA contributions, which are just adjustments that you get whether you itemize or not. Examples of common itemized deductions are real estate taxes, home mortgage interest, and charitable gifts. If you own a home, chances are you will itemize. When it comes to these deductions and itemizations, these are not things that I personally calculate myself. I rely on my CPA for this. So if this is going a little bit over your head like it did for me the first time it was explained to me, don't worry. Set up an appointment with an accountant if you don't have one already, and you can leave all of this stuff to them or have them explain it to you. The more you keep track of this stuff, the better off you'll be whenever tax time rolls around. I know it can feel really overwhelming. Trust me, it took me a few years and a few phone calls with my accountant to really get comfortable with this stuff and create a system that works for me. But now, every year that goes by, I just feel like it goes smoother and smoother, and I feel like I can manage my business with more confidence. I really hope this guide can be a resource that you come back to whenever you need it. Good luck, and don't forget to download the PDF guide so that you can have all of this information and more right in front of you whenever you're doing your taxes. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!